I mean, it's simple. You have to come out and play with the killer instinct. You have to have that
Where was
intensity.
that tonight?
I have no idea. I hate watching the Lakers play sometimes because towards the end they try to play the hero.
ShaquilleONeal calling out LeBron James and telling people to stop comparing him to Michael Jordan hits differently when you actually look at the numbers behind the debate. At this point, this isn't just a sports argument anymore. It's not about favorites or who people grew up watching. It's about two basketball icons whose careers get measured against each other every single day. You said LeBron James the greatest player ever. Ever. What about Michael and Kobe? So you just going to pass Kobe up like that? I'm gonna pass Kobe up. I'm gonna look at Michael. I'm gonna look at the laughter. I'm gonna look at, oh, I know it. Patron America. Yo-yo. And once you put the numbers side by side, things get interesting fast. Think about this. LeBron James has scored over 40,000 career points and became the NBA's all-time leading scorer, breaking a record many believed would never fall. But that's only part of the story. He's also one of the greatest passers the game has ever seen and ranks among the all-time assist leaders. That combination is almost impossible to process. We're talking about a player who has carried massive expectations for more than 2 decades while impacting every part of the game year after year. Most players are remembered for scoring. Others are remembered for passing. LeBron built a legacy doing both at an elite level. And have focus, and I'm glad the Rockets beat him. We know what needs to be done to win the championship. LeBron knows that. I'm surprised that they didn't come out with that effort and intensity. And I'm super disappointed in the Lakers. But then you look at Michael Jordan and the debate takes a sharp turn. Jordan retired with 32,292 points, a total that would define almost any career. But what makes his case so powerful is how he got there. He averaged 30.1 points per game, the highest mark in NBA history. Every time he stepped on the court, scoring looked automatic. Defenses knew exactly what was coming, and many nights they still couldn't stop it. Where do we start? It's just amazing at his age, what he came into the league, would perceive him as this athlete, a dunker, and now we're seeing as a complete scorer, shooter, and everything else under the sun. So it was just a cool moment. See him get to his spot, fade away, new record. Meanwhile, LeBron has averaged around 27 points per game across more than 20 seasons. That's incredible consistency. Jordan's case is built on an unbelievable peak. LeBron's is built on staying elite longer than almost anyone thought possible. And that's where the debate splits into two completely different lanes. Do you value the highest peak ever seen, or do you value greatness sustained across an entire generation? That question changes everything. That's why Shaq's comments got so much attention. When Shaq says, "Stop comparing," and LeBron passes up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in points, and he will this year, will that make him the greatest player ever? An interesting question. He's pointing at the biggest difference between these careers. Jordan's dominance came in shorter stretches, but those stretches felt almost perfect. 6 championships, a 6-0 finals record, and 6 finals MVP awards. Even more impressive, he never needed a Game 7 in the finals. Those numbers became a huge part of Jordan's legend. That's why supporters quickly jump in and say, "Case closed. 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, no finals losses." On paper, it looks nearly impossible to argue against. But LeBron's story was never about perfection. It was about longevity, adaptation, and surviving at the top longer than almost anyone else. I'm going to say one thing to you, Max. I don't know the numbers like you do. Michael Jordan is what in the finals? 6 and what? Oh, and what is LeBron in the finals? That's all I got. Think about what LeBron has done. He reached 10 NBA finals and won championships with 3 different organizations. Different coaches, different teammates, different situations. Yet he kept finding ways to compete for titles. Most superstars spend their entire careers trying to build one championship team. LeBron reached the top multiple times while constantly adjusting to new environments. That's a different kind of greatness. Not better, not worse, just different. And here's something that doesn't get discussed enough. LeBron has played more than 1,400 regular season games and counting, along with well over 280 playoff games. Just think about that for a second. Most players would consider one deep playoff run exhausting. LeBron has been doing it for years. The pressure, expectations, media attention, and constant spotlight have followed him almost every season of his career. He says, "I'm surprised." I said, "Why are you surprised?" He says, "I thought you the best player in the country." I said, "Well, I'm not." Laughter. I said, "Well, I'm not. There's this dude, he's jet black, he's a little taller than me, he can outrun everybody, he can outjump everybody, and he's talking the whole time." He said, "What's his name?" I said, "His name is Michael Jordan. I ain't never seen anything like it." And clears throat. "This is before he became Michael Jordan, this is in college." I said, "Coach, he going to be amazing. I mean, I didn't think he was going to become the GOAT. But I don't believe that Jordan is the GOAT." So it's interesting you say that because we had a moment on TV the other night. LeBron is getting ready to pass Michael in the most 30-point games. And Ernest says, LeBron passes somebody. He's only 40 games behind Michael Jordan for the most 30-point games. And I says, "Can you repeat that?" He's 35 games behind Michael for the most 30-point games. And he's played like 7 or 8 years longer. I love LeBron, he's a good dude, he's a great player. But to not have passed Michael in 30-point games and he's played. I think he's on year 20, right? And I think I said, that's an incredible stat that he's still behind Michael and he's played 7 years longer. You got to admit that's an interesting fact. Jordan played over 1,072 regular season games and around 179 playoff games. Those numbers are incredible. But they also highlight just how much extra basketball LeBron has played. In many ways, he's added several extra seasons of high-stakes games to his career. That's why when critics bring up his finals record, supporters quickly push back. They argue that reaching the finals 10 times should count for something too. After all, you can't lose in the finals if you never make it there in the first place. This is why the debate gets so heated. One side points to Jordan's perfect finals record. The other points to LeBron's ability to stay in championship contention year after year. Both sides value different things, and neither side wants to back down. A lot of younger fans simplify the argument into 6 rings versus 4 rings and call it a day. But Shaq's message seems to be, slow down and look deeper. Basketball history has never been that simple. If championships alone decided greatness, then role players with multiple titles would rank ahead of some all-time superstars. That obviously doesn't happen. Why? Because context matters, competition matters, the role a player had matters, and longevity matters too. Now move beyond championships and look at overall impact because this is where LeBron builds a very strong case. For his career, he's averaged roughly 7 rebounds and 7 assists while carrying a massive scoring load. Maintaining that level of production for more than 2 decades is almost unheard of. LeBron has often been the scorer, primary playmaker, floor general, and leader all at the same time. Very few players in NBA history have been asked to do that much for that long. Jordan's numbers remain elite as well. He averaged around 6 rebounds and 5 assists while constantly putting pressure on defenses with his scoring. His role was different, his style was different, his approach was different. Then there's defense, and this is where Jordan supporters have a strong point. Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year and earned 9 All-Defensive First-Team selections. LeBron had dominant defensive stretches and delivered plenty of huge moments, but he wasn't consistently at that level for as many years. And that's where things become even more complicated. You're no longer comparing 2 players who played the same way. You're comparing 2 completely different versions of greatness. One was built around relentless two-way dominance and an incredible peak. The other was built around versatility, longevity, and doing everything on the court for an unbelievable amount of time. Jordan was the ultimate scorer. When the game was on the line and the crowd was holding its breath, he was the player everyone expected to take the shot. That became a huge part of his legend. Teammates trusted him, fans trusted him, and opponents feared what might happen when the ball landed in his hands. LeBron has always approached those moments differently. Instead of forcing difficult shots, he often looks for the smartest basketball play available. Sometimes that means taking the shot himself. Other times it means finding an open teammate for a better opportunity. That decision-making has sparked debates for years. Some fans see it as unselfish basketball. Others believe superstars should always take the final shot themselves. And that's one of the biggest reasons this conversation never seems to end. Jordan and LeBron don't just represent different players. They represent different ideas of greatness. Jordan attacked games like a closer. LeBron often controlled games like an entire system. He could score, facilitate, dictate the tempo, and adjust to whatever the defense gave him. His impact goes far beyond the box score, which is why supporters constantly point to the bigger picture when discussing his legacy. And here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. Once people start looking at advanced statistics, separating Jordan and LeBron becomes even harder. Some numbers make the debate much closer than many fans would like to admit. LeBron owns one of the highest player efficiency ratings ever recorded, placing him right alongside Jordan. Year after year, he kept producing at an elite level while adding more seasons, more games, and more accomplishments to an already historic resume. Then there are win shares, another stat used to measure overall contribution to team success. Thanks to his incredible longevity, LeBron's totals rank among the highest the NBA has ever seen. That means LeBron has spent an incredible amount of time helping winning teams compete at the highest level. But Jordan's supporters quickly point to something else. His peak years were legendary. There were stretches when he looked almost impossible to slow down. On offense, he was unstoppable. On defense, he was relentless. Every season felt like a race for second place. That's why younger fans sometimes fall into a trap. They want one answer that settles everything forever. But basketball has never worked that way. And honestly, that seems to be the heart of Shaq's message. Shaq isn't saying LeBron isn't an all-time great. Nobody seriously questions that. What he's really saying is that LeBron's career is already so remarkable that it doesn't need to be attached to Michael Jordan's legacy to have value. Think about it. Remove Jordan from the conversation for a moment and LeBron's resume becomes almost unbelievable. The NBA's all-time leading scorer, one of the greatest passers ever, more than 20 All-Star selections, multiple MVP awards, championships with different franchises, and countless playoff appearances. Even after all those years, LeBron was still producing at an elite level while many stars from his generation had already stepped away from the game. That's where Shaq's point starts making more sense. Maybe the comparison itself creates most of the arguments. Because when people stop viewing LeBron through the Jordan lens, they're left looking at one of the most unique careers professional sports has ever seen. This is where the conversation takes a sharp turn. The longer LeBron gets compared to Jordan, the higher the expectations become. Every loss gets examined. Every missed shot becomes a headline. Every playoff defeat turns into another chapter of the never-ending GOAT debate. For most players, a great career would be enough. For LeBron, every season seems to be measured against a standard many fans consider almost impossible to reach. And that's exactly what Shaq appears to be pushing back against. When Shaq says, "Stop comparing," he's not taking anything away from LeBron. If anything, he's arguing the opposite. He's saying LeBron's career is strong enough to stand on its own without constantly being measured against every achievement Jordan ever had. And here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. What if this was never meant to be a direct competition in the first place? What if the debate never ends because people are comparing two completely different versions of greatness? Jordan represents the peak, the explosive rise, the dominant run where everything seemed to go right. His career became the standard for winning, scoring, and delivering in the biggest moments. That image has been locked into basketball history for decades. LeBron represents something different. Longevity, adaptability, consistency, the ability to remain relevant through multiple generations of players, coaches, and changes across the league. While stars came and went, LeBron kept finding ways to stay near the top. That's why so many people struggle to choose between them. Jordan feels like the perfect storm. LeBron feels like an unstoppable force that just kept moving forward year after year. And now we arrive at the question that keeps this debate alive. If LeBron finishes with more than 42,000 points, over 11,000 assists, and over 11,000 rebounds, does that level of production outweigh Jordan's perfect finals record and legendary scoring dominance? Or does perfection still carry more weight than longevity? That's where the debate becomes nearly impossible to settle. There is no statistic that completely answers it. No trophy automatically ends the argument. No single accomplishment makes everyone agree. Maybe that's the real reason this conversation never disappears. The numbers don't settle the debate. They make it even more complicated. The more records people bring up, the more evidence both sides find to support their case. And that's why years from now, fans will probably still be asking the same question. Was Shaq right when he said the comparison should stop? Or are these unbelievable numbers the exact reason the comparison will never end?